All right, good afternoon again, everyone. I am Michaela Peck from the Office of Distance Learning. I am the training officer, distance learning and training officer within the Office of Distance Learning. We're also joined by Mrs. Kamala Anderson, who is also from the Office of Distance Learning in the capacity of instructional design specialist. Okay, so we are going to get straight into it. Today's session will look at using Turnitin within Moodle. If it is, at any point in the session that you wish to speak, you may raise your hand. To do so, bottom center of your screen, there are four icons, right? We have an avatar icon, we have the mic icon, we have a video icon, and we have an avatar with a hand raised icon. So that's the last icon, bottom center of your screen with the hand raised. That's the one that you use if you wish to speak. So you raise your hand, I'll acknowledge you, and then you can click on the second icon from that series of icons to activate your mic. If it is that you prefer to use the chat to speak, bottom right of your screen is a purple panel. If you hover, it says collaborate panel or open collaborate panel. Right, so you click on that. The first icon, which looks like a chat bubble, allows you to speak. So if you wish to speak to everyone, you just click on that, hit everyone, and you can type your message. All right. Of course, I make several checkbacks during the session to ensure that there is nobody who has raised their hand or inputted text in the chat that has not been responded to. All right. Okay. So as I mentioned, today's session will look at using TurnItIn within our learning management system, Moodle, UTech Online. And TurnItIn is known as a web-based similarity detection tool. It is not only used within learning management systems, it's also used as a standalone. So if it is that you have a subscription to their services outside of Moodle, you'll probably have the experience to know that it's also used external to learning management systems. All right. Now, Turnitin is used to compare students' work with what is in their database, and this is in an effort to detect similarity, right, and to ensure originality within your students' work or assignment. And of course, this promotes academic integrity as well. But the system also has added features that are used to streamline grading, for leaving feedback, and just generally for improving students' outcomes. Now I'm going to start my screen sharing because I'm going to make a reference to a document. Well, not really a document, but just a section of Turnitin's official website. You'll start to see my screen in about 3 seconds. Okay, there it goes. All right, so here it says, I'm just going to tell you, Turnitin detects similarity and not necessarily plagiarism. All right, so we're not saying that Turnitin cannot detect plagiarism. It can. However, while it is being marketed, probably by other schools across the board as a plagiarism tool, the company has made it clear that it is a similarity detection tool and that the reports that Turnitin returns are similarity reports or originality reports, all right? Which means it's searching for similar content between Turnitin's database and the student's paper that is being evaluated. So this may be code, citations, references, and more. So similar content as well does not immediately or automatically mean that the student has plagiarized. I'm always of the belief that to detect plagiarism, it requires some human input, some evaluation analysis from a human being, and that is something that we don't want to leave entirely up to our software. So the screen I'm projecting is from Turnitin's official website, and it says, though we're known for scanning submissions for plagiarism, Turnitin actually does not check for plagiarism in your work. What you actually do is check your submissions against what is in our database. All right, and there's more content that can be read that supports this claim. Okay, Mrs. Anderson, yes, you can go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Miss Peck. Just a while ago, we were hearing a lot of muffled. I'm not sure what was happening. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure. Are you hearing me clearly now?
Yeah, man, you're fine now.
Okay, do I need to repeat something?
You could probably just repeat the last sentence I said.
Okay. All right. So I was making reference to the document here from TurnItIn's official website. I was just reading it to say, they're saying though they are known for scanning submissions for plagiarism, they actually do not check for plagiarism in students' work. So what they actually do is to check students' submissions against what is in their repository or database. All right, so there's more information here which you can read and can be easily accessed from turnitin.com. That's their official website. Okay, all right. So as you'll probably figure out by now, Turnitin accepts students' work. All right, and this is, how should I put it? It has to be content that is purely text based. So if you have tables, it has to be a case where these tables are not pictures but text in text, because Turnitin does not scan images. Only text is being analyzed and compared to what is in their database. All right. So if you are familiar with the student's handbook, the university student's handbook, it indicates that up to 20% of similarity detected is fine. However, we don't want to tell students that we will accept a percentage of 20% or less, right? It's important to let them know that plagiarism is wrong and that they can be penalized for such act. So originality as best as possible is what we advise. And of course, if they're using somebody else's work, to use a proper APA format or standard to actually produce their work. All right. Okay. So what we're going to be doing now, we're going to be working from the Moodle training course. If you're new to the series of training sessions that the ODL has been conducting, I'll just quickly let you know that we do have these sessions from week to week. However, you're not expected to work along with us during these training sessions because it's really not a workshop, right? What we do have in place for you are online training modules, right? And these training modules range from basic to advanced. So we have the basic, the intermediate, and the advanced. So what we ask you to do is at some point after you have been a part of the training course, rather the training sessions that I'm doing, which is for example this live one here, that you take to the online training module that covers that section. So at current we are doing the intermediate training, all right, which has different sections to it, and we are here ensuring originality in students' work, which is unit 5. We ask that you come on and that you access the recording that we would have had for some other session, surrounding that topic. You go through the learning objectives for that particular unit, look at the resources, the videos, the content that is there, and then you attempt the learning activity, which is basically asking you to demonstrate your understanding of what you have learned. So it is competency based, and of course, these online training modules are self paced as well. So you're going at your own time and you complete each unit. Once you successfully complete each unit, you receive a badge. And once you have completed the online training module in its entirety, you receive a certificate of completion. All right. So this is very important for you to do, because just sitting and listening to the training sessions, it's not enough. You need to actually action what you are being taught at some point. All right. So this is where we are. The training modules are done in a way where it's very easy to follow, nothing too complicated, no complicated setup. You simply click to read, click to watch a video. Thereafter, you attempt to learn an activity, and it starts from the basic training actually. So from the basic training, you would have been required to create your own course. You're basically building on that course, building on the course. All right, so for example, this is asking you to create a Turnitin assignment and just to um, configure the Turnitin assignment. Basically, everything that will be covered in today's training session will be what you are required to do for this particular unit. Okay, if it is that you're not enrolled to these online training modules, you will know because it will not be reflected as part of the courses on your dashboard. If you're not enrolled, you can simply shoot me an email, michaela.peck@utah.edu.jm, or Mrs. Kamla Anderson, kamla.anderson@utah.edu.jm. I'll leave those in the chat shortly, and we will just quickly enroll you to the courses, all right, or the online training modules. Okay. All right, so for every training session that we have, we're working a demonstration course or a mood training course. All right, so we'll be using this training course for today's session. And the first thing that we have to do to add the TurnItIn activity is to TurnItIn on. So the first step is actually initiating and configuring the Turnitin assignment. All right, so we're going to scroll to the bottom and we're going to click add an activity or resource. And from activities, we are searching for Turnitin assignment. All right, so this is it. I'm going to click on that. Okay, and we are going to give this assignment a name. Just going to be copying the name of an assignment I have opened here, pasting it here. And in the summary box, if you have instructions for this particular assignment that you want students to see, you can leave the instructions in the summary box here. Remember that this does not have to be purely text-based. It could also be done as a voice recording. All right, so we can utilize the different features within the toolbar here. We're going to scroll down now to the submission type that we are allowing. So are we allowing for students to just upload a file? The file could be a Word document, PDF document, PowerPoint document, right? And we also have the text submission. With text submission, it's like online text where students are provided a box and they can type their assignments in. Or if they have the assignments in another document, they could copy it and paste it in the text submission box. All right, so what I'm going to select file upload. The one that you select for a lot of these options, the one that you select is, purely up to you. Okay, so file upload, and then we're going to move down to number of parts. So with number of parts, sorry, we have the option of 1 to 5 parts. What are parts? So it's really as the name suggests. There might be several parts to one assignment that you want students to upload in different sections. So let's say, and this is the example I've always been using. Let's say you have an essay, and there are different components or different parts that make up the essay. We could have the introduction, we could have the body of the essay, and the conclusion. Let's say that makes it 3 parts. I want the students to upload all 3 parts to the one assignment, right? That is basically how you use this to specify. So given that I probably would only want my students to upload the introduction of their essay or their individual activity, I will click on one. So if it is that that particular submission has multiple parts, you make that selection from the drop down here. Okay, I believe we do have a question, Mr. White.
Yes, good afternoon, Miss Peck. Um, so, in terms of the file type, what are the allowed file types if you got that route? Normally, we'd let them upload like in a for, in the other parts of Moodle, would tell them they can use like a PDF or a Word document. But for the programming students, you see, sometimes their files are, because of the nature of the project, there might be quite a number of files. And I noticed a while ago on the say maximum of 5 parts. So could they, for instance, use a zip file? And if so, would Turnitin be able to like check that zip file?
No, no.
Oh,
So Turnitin does not accept zip files. So I had
oh,
mentioned earlier it would have to be like a Word document, a PDF document, a PowerPoint document. To be
okay,
honest, I
thank
think
you,
those
thank
are
you.
the only 3 document types, but it is
That's
something
it.
that you could research as well, right?
All
I
right,
had mentioned as well that their submission has to be text-based. So Turnitin
oh,
does not
thanks.
scan images.
Thank you so much, Miss Peck. You know, why
Yeah,
I ask, you
man.
see, in my, I think it was you show me or somebody else how to set up my tests, and I allow them to upload pictures. You see where they like diagrams. But
Mm-hmm.
then, what I noticed, and I'm checking to see if they copy the diagram like off the internet or somebody else own. What some students do is they take a picture of the diagram and upload. So it's more
Right,
difficult. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
right, right.
It doesn't accept
All
that.
right, no problem. Yeah, man. So hopefully for future they'll start to scan images, but as it stands currently, it's purely text-based. Okay, so we're down from number of parts to maximum file size. All right. Now, with this, it basically specifies how large a document you are accepting from your students, given that you're allowing file uploads. I typically tell lecturers, you know, put this at the maximum upload of 100 megabytes. All right. Okay. Next, we have allow submission of any file type. Okay, so I typically advise no, because if it is that Turnitin only accepts certain file types, I'm not sure how this feature would come in handy. I said before, as far as I know, they accept .doc, .docx, .pdf, .ppt, .pptx, which are file formats for Word, PDF, and PowerPoint respectively. All right. So I'm not really seeing the reason for this, but I'm gonna click on yes to see if something else pops up. Okay, so nothing pops up, so I'm gonna put it back to no. All right. Now the next option, do you wish to display similarity report to your students? Okay. With this particular option, and I realize that it's an option that sometimes as lecturers we tend to overlook it. If it is that you select no for this particular option, this means that students will not get to see the markup document that Turnitin returns with the similarity index and with the markup. All right, so they will not be able to see the report that Turnitin returns. So if you click on no, only you alone as a lecturer will be able to see that particular document. So I normally advise yes. Mrs. Anderson, you can go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Right, I just did a quick double check. So just to expand on what you said about the file types. So it's Microsoft, and this is coming directly from Turnitin's website. It says Word, WordPerfect, HTML, Adobe PostScript, plain text, rich text format, PDF, OpenOffice, something named Hangul, PowerPoint, and Google Docs. So even though it's a little bit
Right.
expanded, it's still basically a text format. So definitely no pictures or anything like that.
Right. Thanks for that, Mrs. Anderson. Okay. All right. So we have just selected the option yes. We want Turnitin to display the similarity reports to students, and we are going to move down to grade. Okay, so with this particular option, really not much to change. You can select the grade type. You can input the maximum grade if there's a grade category, which would have to be configured and set up in your grade book. You can select it from here, and you can also enter the grade to pass. So if it is that the grade to pass is 6, the student gets 5.9 or 5.5, the system will be able to show them that they have failed this assignment. All right, so just showing you that these fields are there. So if it is that you wish to input, you know, the fields, you can. All right, we're moving down now to the assignment part. So if I selected multiple parts, I would have dates to enter, dates and times to enter for each part. I only selected one part. So I have the dates and time here now to enter for this part. So I can name part 1. So let's say I wanted to name this introduction. I could enter the text introduction here. Right? And then what I would enter next is the start date. So this is date and time. Start date, due date, post date. The start date basically indicates to us when we are allowing students to, well, it's basically for home submission. So when are you allowing students to start submitting to the assignment? That is what you'd enter here. And of course, by default, Turnitin would have today's date, which is the 29th. All right, and I started this assignment 209, so that is the reason why we're seeing this time here by the system. Okay, so I'm going to change that to 2 o'clock. We have the due date. The system normally sets it a week after the open date. All right, and then we have the post date. Can anybody tell me what the post date is? What they think the post date is? Any bright spark wants to attempt?
All right.
How long
Like
after the
Mr.
due
White?
how long after the due date you would be willing to accept?
That's Mrs. Roach, right? Or
Yes,
Mr.
it
White?
is.
Who
Yes,
was
it
it?
is. Yes, it is.
Mrs. Roach. Okay, could you repeat? I didn't quite hear you.
All right. I'm thinking that it is how long after the due date you'd be still willing to accept an assignment or this part of the assignment.
Okay. All right. So I think you're referring to the cutoff date. So the post date is different. All right. Anybody else wants to attempt? I think Mr. White had opened this mic. Mr. White, do you want to help
Okay,
us here?
I deferred to Miss Roach, but all right, it's the post date. Well, I'm trying to. I think post means when you submit the actual thing. So um
Yes,
is it
you're
like a
getting there when you
submission date
submit the actual thing. But what
thing?
thing? What? Yeah, which thing is this? You're onto something, man.
All right. Assignment part one. Um, yeah, when you actually, when you actually, I wish somebody would help me. When you actually submit the assignment itself. So hold on. I remember you said that you could work, you could cut and paste the text and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
I think when you finally, uh, when you have submitted,
Anybody
I think
wants to help Mr.
yeah.
White? Anybody wants to help Mr. White? Miss Price? Miss McCoy? Anybody? Okay, everybody's silent. All right, thanks for your
All right.
attempt, Mrs. Roach.
Could it could
Okay,
it
Mrs.
could it
Roach, go
like
ahead.
could I if post comes, you have pre is before post is no. All right. So I have no other answer. I'm sorry.
All right, I appreciate your attempt and same for Mr. White. All right, so the post date is basically allowing us to indicate when students will receive your feedback and grades. Because even though we can mark a student's assignment, let's say on the 6th, we can decide that we don't want the system to release or to post their feedback and their grades until the 7th. All right, so that is pretty much what the post date is, when students will be able to see the grades and feedback that we have left for them. All right, so this could also be the same as the due date, but I'm going to just change it to 4 p.m. on the same day. All right, so I hope that was clear. I hope when I ask in the next couple of weeks, one of my very bright students will be able to correctly respond. All right, okay. And then we have maximum marks. What's the maximum marks for this part of the assignment? You can enter that. I let mine stay default at 100. Okay. Now we are down to similarity report options. Okay. Now, under similarity report, it asks, do you want to allow submissions after the due date? So after the date that we have specified here, are we allowing submissions after this date? It's really up to you and the type of submission they're making based on the nature of the assignment. All right. So if you choose an assignment, like probably a draft assignment, it's like a test Turnitin slot, and you want them to be able to upload for as long as forever, you can indicate that there. You can click on, sorry, yes. Okay. Um, we're going to move down to report generation speed. This has to do with how quickly the student will receive the similarity report sent back to them. Okay, so there are three options: generate reports immediately, students cannot resubmit; generate reports immediately, students can resubmit until the due date; after three submissions, report generate after 24 hours; and then generate reports on due date, and students can resubmit until the due date. The second option is what we typically advise, gives greatest allowance to me. Um, Generate reports immediately. The students can resubmit up until the due date. However, after their first three submissions, reports will generate after 24 hours. All right. So it's really after three resubmissions. So that's basically after four submissions. That's what they mean. The report will generate after 24 hours. All right. So the first report up to the fourth report, they'll get it immediately. But after that, it will take a while for the system to display the report to them. And kindly pay close attention to this option. When you're setting up the Turnitin assignment, don't rush to do it. Take your time, go through. If you feel lost, you just click on the little hint button here and it will detail for you what each option is about. You can always refer back as well to the online training module I had shown you, because that actually has videos to guide. It also has live recordings that you probably would have missed that you can refer back to. All right, so I'm going to select the second option. Reports are generated immediately and they can be submitted until the due date. Now, next we have store students' papers. All right, pretty straightforward. Do you want for Turnitin to store your students' papers as part of, their repository? This will help to make up their database. So this will be stored alongside all assignments that they have. Okay. So when do you say no? When do you say yes? So no repository means it will not be stored. Standard repository is basically saying yes. If it is a case where this is being set up for draft submissions, we ask that you do not allow it to store students' paper, because what is going to happen when you have the actual Turnitin set up for their final submission, it's going to give a match of 100% similarity, because the student would have resubmitted what they already submitted. All right, so we're gonna ask, if it is that this is a draft assignment, you click on no repository. If it is a final assignment, you click on standard repository. Also, it's a good segue into telling you that we have a test Turnitin module. Lecturers use it, students use it, just about open to everybody to use it. We'll look at that shortly. But we have a lot of test spaces there, and you are allowed to use the test spaces to upload your work, to check for similarity. It doesn't store your work. That's how we set it up with that intent. It doesn't store your work. You can upload a lot. I think it's about 35 times, because we have 7 slots with 5 parts, so you can actually upload up to 35 times. If you overdo the 35, you can always write to us. We can delete your submissions, make it empty again, so you can resubmit. You can also guide your students to this course. It is Test Turnitin. I'm going to look at that for just a little bit later. All right, so if it is that you want them to do the final submissions in your course and the test Turnitin, to use the test Turnitin for the draft submissions, that is an option as well. Okay, all right. Now, do we have any questions before we move on? Is everything clear so far?
Yes, Miss Peck, I thank you for that part, because somebody I was going to use Turnitin at the start of the semester, and then a colleague said to me, no, if you allow your students to submit the work, like the partial work, later on, it will do the 100% match. So I'm glad you cleared that up for me. I really
Right.
appreciate it.
Right, and as you have mentioned that as well, Mr. White, I think it's also good to mention that as a teacher, you can remove your student submission, but when you delete it, it's not deleted from Turnitin's database, it's just deleted from the portal. All right, so while you can remove and delete their assignments, you'll still get 100% match, because it is already saved in Turnitin's repository. All right, so just to note that as well. Okay. Now we are down to the final part. Do you want to check against stored students' papers? So yes or no. So these are the papers that are already stored in Turnitin's database. Do you want to check against that? I would say yes. Do you want to check against the internet? Yes. Do you want to check against third-party sources? So these are now journals, periodicals, and publications. Yes, and we're down to exclude bibliography. So I am going to set this to yes. All right. And I guess from time to time in different training sessions, you might see me selecting different options, but it's not to confuse you. It's just to explore with you the idea that there are different options. However, the one you select should be based on preference in accordance with the type of submission your students will make, and also for the best interest of the student. So if the exclude bibliography option is set to yes, it can potentially reduce the percentage detected and give a more representative similarity index. And also, any content appearing in the student's work after certain keywords or phrases will be excluded from the similarity index. So what I'm trying to say to you is that if this is selected as yes, and the student has their bibliography, which is preceded by any of these words, Oh, it says nothing to show. All right, so let me tell you. The words are references, references cited, references and notes, resources, bibliography, works cited. So this is basically the bibliography. That's a section of the assignment that they show the sources that parts of their work would have been taken from. So if it is that their bibliography is preceded by any of the words I just mentioned, that means that their bibliography, that section of their assignment, will be excluded from being checked. But if this is selected as yes, and on their bibliography page, they just list the sources, Turnitin is not that intelligent to not check those sources. The words references, reference cited, references and notes, resources, bibliography, and works cited, any of those words rather, has to be a part of that page. Let me see if I could just quickly, it's here. Is it not right? This is it. All right, so it's important to tell your students they have to put a heading before listing the references. And it has to be that the heading is by itself in one line, and then under that they list the different references. Very important. If not, Turnitin will not know how to interpret and how to actually apply this particular setting configuration to the assignment. Okay, now next we have, do you want to exclude quoted material? I'm going to click on yes. So if the quoted material option is set to yes, Turnitin will ignore text which is enclosed between double quotations or double marks, or text that is indented. So note that single quotes will not work. All right, so students have to observe I think we're at 7th edition for APA, they have to observe the standards there. So if it is that we click exclude quoted material, we click on yes for exclude quoted material, Turnitin will not check text which is enclosed in double quotations or text that is indented, because the system will automatically know that this is not the student's work and that they're referring to somebody else's work or somebody else's words that they're actually using. And then we have exclude small matches. Okay, so small matches, the best way to break it down for you, these are words that occur back to back. So for example, let me just quickly show you my cover page here. This was for a submission I would have made last year, I think, yeah, last year sometime, for an assignment I would have submitted to your home campus. You would see University of West Indies home campus, the name of the course, and the title for the submission listed. Many of my classmates would have had all of this, probably even down to before my name. This is about 15 words. We don't want Turnitin to pick this up on everybody's cover page and think that the students are plagiarizing. So what we normally do, and of course this is just an example, there are many other instances in which we might have occurrences of same. What we normally do is to tell Turnitin to exclude small matches of 10 to 15 words. 15 might be pushing it a little bit, but in a case like this, you can see why it might be important. So we normally put exclude small matches of 15 words. You have the option of percent, so you could probably put 2%, but I've used this option before. I don't find it to be particularly accurate. So I normally enter the count of words I want Turnitin to exclude. So 15, I think is fine. Okay. Grade mark options. So this basically allows you to append a rubric. So the rubric, of course, would be guiding the assignment. All right, this particular assignment. You have the option of uploading one, but it has to follow a particular format, or else Turnitin will not accept it. Or, which I find is the easiest option because that format thing is, a little bit much. I find the easy option is to create the rubric in Turnitin. Number one, you will have it there forever unless you decide to delete it. You can apply to the student's assignment forever. You just change the student's name and the student's assignment will come up for that respective name and you'll be able to apply the rubric to it. We're not going to be looking at how you create it right now. We're going to be looking at it later, but just showing you that the option is here. So if it is that you have your rubric uploaded already, you can select it from the list here, and it will be appended to the assignment. And it's good to guide the students, for them to see what the criteria are, what it is that they need to do a little bit of this, a lot of this, in order to meet the standards for the submission. Okay, we're gonna move down. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit at restriction of access because, and this came up a lot in our last session that would have been yesterday. I mean last week when we looked at assignments and groups. Yeah, very important. So I understand that many of the courses that we are on being co-lectured. So you might have multiple lectures on one course with different groups. So the session last week would have looked at all of that, and you can refer back to the training module just to look at the recording for the previous session. But it's important to note that if it is that this particular assignment should only be accessed by your group of students, you have to add the restriction. If you don't add the restriction, and you probably just put your name, to say that this is Mr. White's submission, so students or Mr. White must submit here, then possibly because other students can access it, they might make their submissions there. All right, so up until today, I received a complaint, regarding this. So what I normally advise, you click on add restriction, click on group, and you select your group from the drop down. So what happens is that students have to match the condition of being in this particular group in order to make their submission to this particular assignment. Kindly note this is not only for TurnItIn. This could be for any resource or any activity. So it could be for the regular assignment, it could be for a quiz or anything else. Once you have this set up, only members of your group can access this particular activity. All right, so you just click on the name of the group. Also, if it is that it's multiple groups, so let's say it's 3 groups. We select one of the groups already. We're going to add another group. All right, so we're going to add another group. Click on add restriction, group. Okay, so if it is a case where it's like this, kindly note that this is saying that the students must match all of the following conditions. It is saying the student must be a part of group OM1 for Mrs. Anderson and group OM1, for Miss Peck, and group UM1 for Miss Peck. So this is saying that the students must be a part of all of the groups. If it is that you want the students to be a part of any of the groups to be able to submit, you have to change all to any. Very important. So this means students must be a part of this group or this group or this group to be able to submit to this assignment. All right, is that clear? Do we have any questions before we move on? Okay, Miss Price. Okay, right. So let me just quickly go over. You're adding a restriction to this particular activity. You're adding the restriction by groups. All right. So what you're doing, you're selecting the group that you want to gain access to make their submission to this assignment. You'll see a lot of groups. You just look for your own from the drop down, click on it, and you ensure that any is selected if they don't have to be a part of all groups to gain access. All right, very important. Okay, so I'm just going to remove the restrictions for now since we're not focusing on that. We're going to scroll down, click on save and return. All right, and it was placed at the bottom here. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so we have looked at configuring the assignment. It is set up. We're going to click on it now. Okay, so here it is saying that part 1, which is the introduction, is due October 6th. It has been opened from today at 2. The post date is October 6th at 4. Maximum marks, marks available rather. You do not have to edit the assignment to change its date. You can simply click on the pencil if you wish to change the dates. All right, so if you want to change the dates and the times, you just click on the pencil beside the one that you want to change and you make the changes there. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, because my demonstration will be incomplete if I don't go through the process of uploading an assignment, looking at Turnitin's report, and also looking at additional features from the Turnitin. What's the name of it again? Feedback Studio, from the Feedback Studio, right? Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I am going to use Exam 90. So these are dummy students accounts that the ODL use primarily for testing. All right, so I'm gonna be using the Exam 90 account to upload an assignment, and we're going to take it step by step. So I'm gonna click on Submit Paper. I'm going to use a title for this paper because I believe this is the paper I will be testing, submitting. Right, where it says file to submit, I'm going to click on add, choose file, and I am going to locate the assignment. Here it is. Upload this file. All right, and click on add submission. So when the student is making the submission, they normally get this little statement to say that this is my own work, and they have to tick the statement. If they don't tick the statement, they won't be able to submit it to Turnitin. Once the submission has been made, when it is saying that it is uploading, once it has been made, they'll receive a digital receipt. It basically shows the submission ID, it shows the submission text, right? And it says it has been successfully uploaded. All right. So we are waiting on the similarity report here. It says pending. I'm gonna do a quick refresh to see. I think we had selected the option. Good. Okay, because I was gonna check if we selected the option for the report to be returned immediately. Okay, so it says it has been uploaded, and we can see the similarity that Turnitin has returned here. Okay, so just to break this down, the color code here means something. I'm gonna show you a picture. Okay, and the color of the report icon, it actually indicates the similarity score of the paper, and this is based on the amount of matching or similar text that was found. So the percentage range used by Turnitin is 0 to 100%. So in terms of the colors, and what you're seeing here is like an approximate value, but I'm going to tell you. In terms of the colors, there is blue when there's absolutely no matching text. All right. There's green when one word to 24% matching text is detected. There's yellow when there's 25 to 49% of matching text. Orange when there's 50 to 74% matching text. And the red zone, of course, is when you have 75 to 100% matching text. And this information can be retrieved as well from the official website of Turnitin. Okay, so I'm in the green zone here. One word, 24% matching text. How do we view the submission? You simply click on the submission title or the percentage of similarity detected. So this is open in the Feedback Studio. Okay, so this is what the assignment looks like. You can see Turnitin's markup on it, going all the way down. All right, okay. So what we're going to be clicking on, we're going to be clicking on the match overview. All right. And if you add up 9, 12, 2, 2, 2, and 1, 1, you would get 20%. So the match overview is showing that 20% of similarity was detected, and that 9% was from this side, 3% was from this side, 2 was from this particular side, 2% was from a university, Keene University says, and it goes down. All right, so these are things that you can actually click on. And it's also important to note as well, this is not, this section of the report is not color coded. All right, so let me just break that down. Red doesn't mean bad, purple doesn't mean good. It is color coded, yes, for transparency and visibility when reading the report. So red doesn't mean that more similarity is detected in a certain section of your student's assignment. All right, because we have red down here and it's just 1%. Okay, so what you would do, you'd click on each section and you would actually go through. So here it is saying 9% from cyberlearning.org. Okay, so this is text that was not surrounded by double quotes. I can see that the double quotes seem to have started here, well, ended here. Everybody seeing that? So this was not properly done, Miss Peck. This was not properly done. All right. If we click on 3 to the 3%, which is 2 rather, you're seeing different sections here. Let me just get my mouse off. All right, this particular section, it was not indented, it was not surrounded by double quotes, but I believe based on the format, the APA format used here, I believe this should be okay. Not an APA specialist, but I believe this should be okay. And it's one of the reasons why, for every training session that I do, I point out the importance of actually eyeballing the assignment for yourself as a lecturer to ensure that you're actually seeing areas where the students could have plagiarized. In a case like this, I would ask for the system to remove this as a case of a plagiarism, and that is possible. All right, how do we do this? So I'm just going to go back and show you. Let me just go back. Okay, so I clicked on number 2, which is a 3% plagiarism detected or similarity detected. All right, what I can do is to click on the arrow just to see the finer details. And if this is a case of the student not plagiarizing, I can exclude this source and ask Turnitin to review on the report. All right, so to do that, I would click here and click on the exclude sources button. All right, I select what I want to exclude, click on exclude one, and you would realize that the match overview goes down to 17%. This is something you can do for any section of the paper. All right. Do we have any questions? Thus far, is everything clear to everybody? Any concerns?
I don't want to use the word confusing.
Who is this? Mrs. Roach, yes.
Yes, I don't want to use the word confusing, but I'm not finding another word just yet. I'm just looking at the volume of assignments that I have to mark. And if I have to be going through with a fine-tooth comb like this, I see myself finishing next year with the marking. There is a report coming up that tells me overall, so the student has plagiarized. That's really what I want to see. I'm not keen on what area they plagiarize in. I just want this thing here. Turnitin to tell me if they plagiarized or not. Is that a bad thing to just want that, or do I need to get into the all of this?
Okay. All right. So what I will, okay, Mrs. Anderson, you can go ahead. I guess I'll speak after you.
No, I just wanted to go back to what Ms. Peck said at the beginning. See, that is why it's important to understand the purpose of the software. So the software in and of itself cannot detect plagiarism. It can identify areas of possible plagiarism, but you cannot just take that wholesale and say, okay, 30% you plagiarize, you get 0. No, you are still going to have to go back through and do this, or you're going to be doing the student a disservice. Because that's why we emphasize at the beginning that it is a software to guide similarity. You now have to do this. If you don't do this, then you're going to be doing the students a disservice, because as Ms. Peck is demonstrating, you cannot just use the percentage wholesale. You have to go through to really give the student the benefit of the doubt. You have to kind of eyeball it and as she's showing here, you're not necessarily reading through the paper in detail. You're looking at the matches, right? Maybe you look at if like the 1 and the 2%, I would say, you can leave those for the most part. You probably look at the bigger ones to see if there's any serious damage there. But this sort of scrutiny is critical, because the tool is just a tool by itself, and that's why they're clear to say that they are not about detecting plagiarism. You are the only one who can do that. They're just showing you similarity. They're giving you a tool, and then you have to use that tool. Yes, I can understand that, Miss Price, but the truth of the matter is, if it is that you are, again, it's just about the tool. So, for example, if I have a fork only has one purpose. I can't take the fork and make it be something else that it's not. And that's why they're very clear to state that this is not about this. They're not going to tell you that they are detecting plagiarism. They are detecting similarity. And then so for example, you may have 100 papers. Out of those 100 papers, you may have 10 students over the 20%. So then you may choose to only investigate those 10 because those 10 would have been over the recommended limit of the 20%. So it's not necessarily that you would have to apply this sort of scrutiny to everyone, but definitely in those cases where the percentage is above the 20%, then we definitely recommend this sort of scrutiny because then you could be putting the student at a disservice, especially if you indicate that, a student will get zero or a student will fail if their papers are above 20%.
Okay, all right. So I guess I don't have to say anything additionally because Mrs. Anderson said what I would have said um, in response to Mrs. Roach. Yes. Um, Miss Price, you can go ahead. Your hand is up. You can take the mic.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you so much. I just wanted to respond. I'm totally understanding what the software is used for. So my question is, if we tell the students, because we normally tell our students what similarity we're looking for, so we normally give them a chance to upload quote unquote a draft. And when the similarity is above what we stipulate, we give them a chance to review the paper to see what is it that they could do to improve that similarity score. Do you think that is another way of getting behind that or no?
Well, right, right. So that is an option. I had made reference to that earlier as well. And it's something that we would recommend. Um, let's say you have a slot for them to upload the draft assignment, right?
Mhm.
What the students can do, if it's above the 20%, the stipulated 20%, what the student can do, they can make, and it's recommended, that is really why they're submitting the draft first, they can make the different changes to the assignment to help to bring the similarity index down, or as you refer to it, to improve it, so that when they have made their final submission, the match overview is not over the amount. So yes, that is
Right.
something that's a good method. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And you will show us how to do that, right?
Well, so
You
it's
said
nothing
that.
different from what is being demonstrated. So it's I had mentioned it earlier while setting up. It's really you creating two slots.
Okay,
One for draft, one for
right,
final. It's just
right.
that, as I had mentioned when going through the configurations, the
Yes.
steps that you take, you're not gonna want to save a student's assignment if it's a draft submission that you're creating that slot for.
All right.
You
Thank
understand?
you.
Right, right.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So that is something that we actually recommend, the draft submission and then a slot for final submissions. Okay. Do we have any other questions before we move on? Okay, Miss Johnson, if you have deemed that there's too much similarity in the submission, will the students be able to resubmit after the readjustment? Um, so that is, I guess I've answered the question already. So that is the reason why we want for you to have the draft submission first. All right. The students can't resubmit to the final if it's not configured for resubmission. Okay, so we normally advise you do the draft submission slot first, and the students submit there. So you're basically giving them a chance to see what the similarity index will be like. They can improve, and then they can actually resubmit. Okay, so if the draft could allow them to resubmit more than one time. So remember that it's just that it's not storing the paper, so there won't be a clash in terms of the match overview. All right, you're welcome. Okay, so that's basically it for the match overview. But below the match overview, we have all sources. So all sources, basically, as the name suggests, it shows all of the sources that similarity would have been detected from or found in. And they're displayed and sorted by the highest to the lowest percentage match. And of course, from this, you can as well click to see the different sections of the paper, and you can exclude sources from this section as well. Now, I think the bigger picture here, well, not the bigger picture, but a very useful option. Let's say when you were setting up the assignment, there are certain settings that you probably forgot to apply to the assignment. If you click on the filter here, you will see some of these options here. So exclude codes, if it was not ticked, you could tick it here, right? Exclude bibliography, if it was not ticked, you could tick it here. Exclude sources that are less than, you could enter here, or if you prefer to use the percentage option, right? If it is that you're making a change here, you have to ask Turnitin to generate a new report, right? So if I'm choosing now to exclude my bibliography and I click on this and click on apply changes, I have to ask the system to give me a new report, and more than likely the match overview will change, because we have had instances where lecturers forget to exclude the bibliography from being checked, right? And in that case, of course, similarity index is higher. They can always come back here, they can tick that they want to exclude bibliography or they want to include it, and whenever they apply the changes, click on the new report, it highly impacts the match overview that has been detected. Okay, now we are going to move down to, this is what exclude sources. So these are the sources that are excluded. So whatever sources you have excluded, you can restore them if you want to. So it's not a permanent thing. So not permanent in that you can reverse it. So if you have excluded a source mistakenly, you can come back here, click on it, and click to restore. If you want to restore all, you simply hit restore all. That will bring back the original match overview, and this particular markup will be reinserted in the student's assignment. What do students see when they come here? They will see everything. They will see Turnitin's report. Once it is that the assignment was configured for them to see, they will see your markup on the student's assignment, which we will look at shortly. They will see, if you leave a voice comment, they'll be able to access it here. So basically everything that you can see, they'll be able to see. They just won't be able, to access lecturer features. Okay, so this of course includes being able to exclude the sources, being able to choose what filters they want, and so on and so forth. Now, we looked at this section just now, and we had skipped over this, which was intentional. What I want us to look at now is quick marks. Now, quick marks is part of Turnitin's feedback studio, and it's really, as the name suggests, these are quick marks that you can just drag and drop onto the student's assignment just to send them a message very quickly about their assignment. It's like comments. So if it is that you're scrolling through the student's assignment and you see some, issues with grammar, punctuation, citation, you can drag and drop from here. So let's say I'm seeing that the student has, used somebody's work and there was no citation. I could grab from the quick marks and just drop it wherever I'm seeing that issue, citation needed. Okay, they also have different categories. So if I scroll through this drop down here, it's showing me commonly used, category for composition. I'm going to scroll down, category for punctuation. Let's say I'm seeing that a comma is missing in my student's work. I could scroll to where the comma is missing and just drag and drop that particular comment. Okay, if what you want is not included in any of the categories, you can always enter your own comments. It's very easy to do so. You scroll to the section of the assignment you want to put the comment in, and you click on it, and it gives you a little box. So when you click on that box, you enter the heading for your comment. So it could be that you're telling them that something is missing in Word, and then you put, okay, so this is actually where you type, I guess my bad. This is actually where you type everything. Yeah, I thought that we had a double box here where you could enter like the heading and then the description, but I guess this is the only box. Okay, so we could say word is missing here, word appears to be missing here. Any comment you want to give to the student, and you can actually convert that into a quick mark. So this is actually where you get two boxes. I'm remembering when you convert it to a quick mark. When you convert it to a quick mark, you would always see that particular comment. You don't have to keep retyping it for each student. All right. So when I click on convert to quick mark, good. You get to include the title. All right. So we could call this missing word. And then we click on the set or the category we want this to be saved in. I would say commonly used, and then you click on submit. All right. So when you go into the so it's right here in missing words, and it will also be shown in the commonly used drop down category. Okay. Now there's another section here. It says inline. It basically allows you to just type text without the blue highlight here. All right, so it's basically the text by itself without the highlight. And drag it and drop it anywhere. You can put it anywhere you want to put it. It's just inline text, really. Okay. Now, our next option here, it says feedback summary. What it allows us to do is it just creates a space for us to give an overall feedback to our students. So this could be via voice or it could be by text. So it's overall feedback as opposed to the 1 and 2 insertions. So if I click on the record button for voice comment, it allows for me to record up to 3 minutes. Okay, 3 minute snippet for me to record. It's recording me now. I can click on stop, play back. I don't think you can hear it because I'm wearing an earphone. I can hear it though. And you click on delete if you don't want it to go through to the student, or you can click on the diskette to save it. All right. You can always delete it though if you wish. All right. Remember, when the student comes here, they'll be able to see all of your comments and they'll be able to play the voice comment you have left. And of course, this is basically the same. Leave a general comment, but by text. If it is that you want to refer students to external websites, for helping them to improve on, their submissions, you could insert a link as well. So you type the text here, and you can insert a link if it is that you want to link students to an external website. Okay. Okay, we have a question. Miss Angus, you can take the mic.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Miss Speck. You're saying that students are able to double check their or get feedback then on this. So they once you have downloaded it and everything, if you make your comments, they can afterwards check back to see what feedback you've given.
Yeah, man. So they can come to the feedback studio. So when they come to the space, the same space that enables them to make their submission, once they click on the similarity index or the name of the assignment, they'll be able to see all of this. And if you have left a voice comments, yes, they'll be able to hear it.
So you're suggesting that we should mark the Turnitin report rather than the actual script.
Well, this was always an option. How are you doing it? Marking the physical assignment?
Yeah.
Oh, I know a lot of lecturers use this. I didn't know that we had cases where persons were still downloading the students' assignments and marking them. I didn't really know about that. For years, lecturers have been using this method.
Okay.
Yeah,
The
man.
thing
So
about it is that I do it because I now have a physical copy of the document, and it's easier to have it that way. When I say physical, I have it on my computer, so that for
still electronic.
when you're preparing for the examiners, the external examiners, I can just access it like that rather than. So is it that the external examiners would have access to this as well, if anything?
All right, so we actually do advise as well that you have a copy of the student's assignment downloaded. Anything can go wrong with this particular system. Not sure who just raised their hand. So anything could go wrong with the system. So for instance, Miss Angus, if it is a case where the semester is already closed out, nobody will be able to access the submissions at all. right? So if it is a case where you want to download the assignment, we actually advise that. But in terms of marking it and appending the feedback and the comments and the grades, all of that can be done in the system. But at least you know you'll still have the assignment. There are actually several options for downloading the assignment. You can download the current view, right, which is the one with Turnitin's markup and everything that you're seeing, or the originally submitted file, which is a student's original assignment with no markup on it. So it's good to have both. So you get to decide which you download. But in terms of students being able to access, your feedback and the grades and all of that, I would say it's good to keep it in this space because it is more efficient and effective for you to provide the grades and the feedback in this system instead of having to do all of that, then send it back to the students. This is a central space that the students can come on and just get to see their assignment and the feedback and the grades that you have given to them.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. I think a hand was raised. I'm not sure if the person put their hand back down, but if you wish to speak, you can raise your hand. Okay. All right, so we are moving now towards the final section. So just quickly before we go on to the rubric, um, right, so as Miss Angus asked that question, we have several options for download. You can download the current view, which is what you're actually seeing now. You can download the digital receipt. Digital receipt basically shows the paper submission ID, first and last name of students that submitted. It shows the amount of words or the count rather of the words that they have submitted. I think that's basically it. And then we have the originally submitted file, which is the um, assignment that the student submitted before, your feedback and Turnitin's markup. Both the lecturers and students have the option of downloading all three. All right. And I believe this is what the receipt looks like. Right. This is what the submission receipt looks like. Okay. All right, so we are going to move on to the rubric. All right, so I had touched on that quickly. All right, Mr. White, go ahead. Mr. White, are you there?
Oh, hi, Miss Beck. You hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry about that. My mic went off for a while.
Okay.
I was trying to follow you. So I logged in
Mm-hmm.
as myself, as a lecturer, created
Mm-hmm.
a little Turnitin um thing, and then it saved and everything went through okay. Then now to do a
Mm-hmm.
submission, um I I said change role as student, change role to
Mm-hmm.
student. And so I
Mm-hmm.
then, as a student, just uploaded a text file from off my computer. And everything went okay. Um, I saved it and got the receipt and all of that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was going back in to see, if it would give me the similarity report, and it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So is it a case that you can't submit as yourself
Yeah,
when you
man, it's
try it?
something I've done before. I have done it
Oh,
before.
okay. Okay, I'll
Is
figure it
it
out then.
that, yeah, man, because what you have to do, check to ensure that the settings were that you receive the report immediately. So check the settings to
Oh,
ensure that you set it up correctly.
all right. Yeah, man. I followed you two a while ago, and everything went okay.
Okay.
All right. So it's just a setting. All right. Thanks, Miss Peck.
Yeah, man, yeah, man. All right. Um, if we have no additional questions, let's move on to the final segment of today's session, which is the rubric. Okay. So when you click on the rubric manager, it says no rubric has been attached to this assignment. To create, upload, or attach one, you simply click on the menu option here. And if you have a lot of rubrics, when you click on the menu option and you go to the rubric library, it will show you all of the rubrics you have. I only have all of these rubrics because of demonstrations that I would have done for, you know, training sessions. All right. What I want to show us though is how to actually create a new rubric. All right, we want to look at that. So we have, what's the difference between the rubric and the grading form? Like, I know that's an excellent question. I've never researched it, but based on what I have seen and my experience over the years, is that the grading form is a simplistic version of a rubric. It's a very, 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 very simple um, format that it basically allows you to enter text similar to the rubric, but it's not as detailed. All right, it's something you can explore, but I won't be demonstrating that. I think the rubric is best suited to us as lecturers in a tertiary institution. So we're going to be demonstrating that. So I'm going to click create new. All right, and from the drop down you can select the type of rubric you want to create. With the standard, it allows you to enter scale values for each column and the weight criteria rows using percentage. Qualitative allows to provide standard feedback without numeric scoring. And we have custom, allows you to enter any value into each rubric cell. I'm going to select custom. I think this is the one that I want to work with for today's session, for demonstration of today's session. And I actually have a rubric here that I will be using so that we don't have to spend time typing everything out. All right, so the first thing it asks for is the rubric name. So I'm just going to copy and paste the name we have here. It's a demo rubric. So I'm going to put just that there. All right, so that is entered. And now it's asking us to enter scales and the criteria information. Okay. So for criteria 1, we have quality of writing. So I'm going to put that in that box here. Okay, so it only allows for you to save a certain amount of text. So I'm just going to type writing. At the bottom, I'm going to put quality of writing. Right? Criteria 2, it says grammar, usage, and mechanics. So in the box at the top, I'm just going to put grammar. Right? And then in the box below, grammar, usage, and mechanics. I believe everything is mechanics. Yeah, so probably mechanics could quite talk about. Okay. Criteria 3, we don't have a third criteria here, so we're going to delete this box. So I'm going to scroll down. Okay, and the delete bin is there. I'm going to click on it. Are you sure you want to delete this criterion? Yes. Same for the other one. I'm just going to hit the bin and delete. So now we have 2 criteria. Okay, now the scales. For the scales, we have expert, accomplished, capable, and beginner. All right, so expert, accomplished, capable, and beginner. You'd realize that we only have 3 scales. You can add more scales if needed by hitting the add icon here. All right, so I believe this one was beginner. Okay. All right, and then for each, you'd realize that we can enter numeric values. So it's 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm just going to quickly enter that for each scale. 4, 3, 2, 1. So evidently, this assignment will be marked out of 4 marks. Good. And then now we're going to enter the description for each. Okay. So expert, that is it. Okay. For accomplished, that is it. So we should have full stops after each section there. Same for the first one. For capable, right? If it is that you have your rubric already and you wish to upload it, you can't. You have to do it in Excel. So what I'm going to do, I can actually leave with you. So I'll upload it to I think it's already there in the online training module, the format that you have to observe to successfully upload a rubric that you already have. That's why I say if you already have it, I would advise just copying and pasting and saving it to the system so you'll have it there for future. You don't have to keep, recreating it and re-adding it to the system each time you wish to mark your assignments, a similar assignment. Okay. All right. So we are going to save this rubric. We gave it a name. We filled out the different arrows. We're going to click on save. All right, so now this will be a part of my list. So when I come here and click on rubric library, you can see it is there and it's the one that I'm using now. Now, in order to attach this to the assignment, I have to turn on the switch bottom left. It says attach the assignment. I just click on that switch and it is attached to my assignment. So I'm going to click on close, and this is the rubric. Okay, so let's say now I'm marking, let's say this is an essay and I'm marking for writing, quality of writing. If I put it to 4, look at the bottom, it's telling me what does expert, what is this particular rating for. Piece was written in an extraordinary style and voice, very informative and well organized. If I switch it to 1, the student will be able to see the description for beginner. The piece had no style or voice, it gives no new information, very poorly organized. All right, so I could put my scale to 3, and same for grammar. Whenever you move the scale, you can actually see what is there, and the student will be able to come here and to see and be able to read the description. Of course, they can't make the changes here, but they'll be able to see what rating they have received and the text supporting that particular rating. All right, so this here is 6 out of 8 if I apply it to grade, because remember I had the maximum marks for 100. If I apply it to grade, it's going to now be equal to what 6 out of 8 is, which is 75 out of 100. So the student will be able to see that grade. All right, and don't worry, if you want to mark student assignment in this fashion using this method, you simply click on the drop down to view the other student's assignment. All right, so clearly I only did one upload for demonstration purposes, but if you have multiple students assignment, you simply use the drop down, select the student, and this will already be here. Or you can use the, the previous and the next navigational buttons to advance or to go back. Okay, so I think we have come, I'm sure we have come to the end of today's session. Do we have any questions, any burning questions, any concerns? Was something unclear to you that you wish for me to just quickly go over before we go today? Okay, so if I pick on somebody to ask somebody a question, they have everything locked in their minds, everything is good, everything is okay. No questions at all? Okay. All right, so today's session was recorded, as you would have known. What we are doing now, because the training modules actually have recordings for the session that we had done in the summer, we're not putting these recordings in the same training modules. We're actually building out a course now, which will have all the recordings that we would have done from January of this year up until the end of the year. And you'll be able to go back and you can listen to the recordings. They'll be dated, they'll be titled, so you'll be able to look at it and just quickly know which recording is for which session. The decision though is not to have the recordings there. I'm not going to say after they have expired, because that is what just came to mind, after a year period. All right, so what you will see there for now is what would have started from January, sessions recorded from January. Okay, so for next year we will have a fresh recordings, but the online training modules stay as is for now, with the recordings which would have been done for sessions in the summer. Okay, all right, so thank you too for attending. I trust you have learned a lot. You're welcome, Mr. White and Miss Price. Thanks for coming, Miss Johnson. So the recording, so when the course is actually, when we're finished doing the uploads, because we're uploading them to our YouTube and then linking them back to the Moodle course, we will send something through the broadcaster pointing to the module so that you can access it. But for now, the online training modules are available. All right. So you'll be able to see those from your dashboard. If you're not seeing the online training modules on your dashboard, you can send me or Mrs. Anderson email, and we will enroll you to the training modules. Okay. All right. So thanks again for attending, everyone. Take care and keep safe. Bye-bye. Okay, so you can just write to us, Miss Johnson, let us know which one you are not enrolled to. Send us an email. All right, okay.